Thank you, Suzette. Well, this is our first meeting without the benefit of Kelly O'Brien. I want to commend Clint and Nira for stepping up and Suzette for acting as the moderator and Haven as our speaker. Before we move into today's program, let me give you some updates on what CCAC has been doing. Today's March the 9th. On March 11th, 2020, just shy of a full year ago, Maurice Cox asked CCAC to help with the Invest Chicago South and West program. And over the summer, we learned to do Zoom, and we provided technical assistance to 3 corridors, the winners of which were identified on Monday, March the 8th. This has been a labor of love for so many CCAC members. Those of you listening in, I want to commend your efforts. Clint is going to be working up a newsletter that we share, or an item that we share with you, that identifies specifically what we've done in terms of the exposure of our membership to that important city initiative. At the end of March, the RFP process closes for the second set of corridors, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll look forward to having folks chosen from those corridors in terms of the teams going forward. But it's a huge shot in the arm, broadly speaking, for Chicago, and the interest that's been displayed on the west side and the south side is very important, and CCAC has been key to that. So that's an update on Invest Chicago South and West. Again, thank you for all the participants from our committee ranks who were key to making that happen. Another major initiative is underway for CCAC that's led in major part by Andrew Broderick and Chris Hall, but there's a whole lot of other folks involved with that. And a week from Thursday on March 18th, as an agenda item on Chicago's Plan Commission agenda, we'll be talking about the Forward Together initiative, which involves 30 members from CCAC in terms of very exciting planning to when Chicago reopens, and then looking out to an intermediate and longer term horizon in terms of critical public investments. So stay tuned on all of that. Your membership and your volunteer work is huge, and I want to thank you all for doing that, all of you. And I'll now cede the ground to Dr. McKinney.
Okay, thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you today, and I'd like to say many thanks to Greg for having me to facilitate today's discussion. I am certainly no stand-in for the wonderful Kelly O'Brien, but it gives me great pleasure this afternoon to introduce our keynote speaker, who is none other than Haven Allen. Haven is the CEO and co-founder of mHUB and the managing partner of the Product Impact Fund. Haven is an entrepreneur and technology strategist who most recently concentrated on growing the manufacturing industry and strengthening its community throughout Chicagoland. So let me just tell you a little bit about Haven and his background. As an economic development strategist at World Business Chicago, he directed the Advisory Council for Chicagoland Manufacturing, through which he established and led the implementation of an economic development agenda to support growth and job creation in the manufacturing sector. So during his graduate education, Haven also served as a mayoral fellow at the city of Chicago, where he provided research and analysis on policy initiatives dealing with infrastructure, electricity markets, and community policing strategies. If that weren't enough, Haven's desire to serve his country led him to join the Peace Corps, where he served as a community economic development volunteer in Panama. There, he worked to strengthen the management and leadership capacities of rural cooperatives and local organizations in order to increase economic opportunities. And in addition to that, he was an entrepreneur in the production and publishing industry. So Haven, I know how embarrassing it is when someone reads your entire bio. So I will stop there and allow me to take this opportunity to welcome you to CCAC. And we are all very excited to hear from you today. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dr. McKinney and Clint and Greg for this opportunity. Today, hope to just provide a brief 20-minute overview of mHUB, why we're so bullish on the manufacturing sector, and what we think are the real market opportunities for the region, and then look forward to getting into the Q&A and discussion with everybody on this call today. I have some slides up here. They're just more directional. We'll run right through it. mHUB, as Dr. McKinney has stated, was part of an effort led by World Business Chicago to lower costs and barriers so that more people could engage in hard tech and manufacturing entrepreneurship. There was a fundamental belief that, we had all the right talent, all the right intellectual property, the industry, the supplier networks, and if we could connect these entities, these groups, create a place-based asset, we could unlock a lot of capacity and the ability to grow new hard tech and new manufacturing businesses and truly change the growth trajectory of that manufacturing industry. That's our mission. I mean, we're focused on developing that entrepreneurial ecosystem around physical product and hard tech innovation and accelerating the industry by cultivating collaboration between its stakeholders. Last week was our 4-year anniversary, and in 4 years, we've supported over 426 small businesses and startups. And these companies have gone on to create over 2,000 jobs. They've generated over $430 million of revenue and attracted over $700 million of investment capital to our region. And then the other thing that we're always looking at is how we connect these startups, these very early stage companies, with the local manufacturing base. And last year alone, our spend in the U.S. manufacturing was $30 million. Why are we so focused on manufacturing? It's part of our historical strength, and people don't really realize that Chicago is the second largest manufacturing economy in the United States. And if you took a line around the Midwest entirely, we become the 4th largest manufacturing economy in the world. We have all the talent, we have all the suppliers, the buyers, the ability to move products anywhere domestically and internationally. And with this emergence of smart technology, smart devices, it's just exploding the new things that we can redesign, re-engineer, and develop new products. It's also from an economic, policy person. It's an industry that creates more jobs. It has the highest job multiplier effect. So for every 1 job in the manufacturing industry, it supports and creates 2.2 additional jobs in our economy. And then from a money multiplier effect, again, the highest money multiplier effect. If we're generating $1 in manufacturing in our local industry, that dollar has a multiple of 1.3 that, again, it's supporting growing other service-oriented related businesses. It's also one of those careers where, at every level, whether you're part of the 26% of people who have a college degree or the 74% that do not have a college degree, you can enter the industry and create a real living wage of middle-class jobs. And then from a broader macro perspective, it's where our R&D spend is happening in this state. So, where we see real opportunities and where we're starting to invest in are things like the industrial IoT space. Right now, it's projected by next year, the total addressable market is over $350 billion for industrial IoT hardware. And then as you expand into 2025, we're looking at over another $343 billion in new market opportunities for industrial Internet of Things devices. And then when you look into medtech, the numbers just continue to grow. By 2025, it's expected that the medtech market size is going to be around $6.2 billion. And then the new emerging market in biometric devices, digital health, and patient monitoring is going to grow an additional $249 billion. You can see this story play out in energy tech and smart mobility and go and further down the line. All it's stating is there's this huge market opportunity that Chicago, Illinois, and the Midwest has a rightful claim, the right resources and the right talent and the right mix to be a dominant player here in the US, but and more globally. You know, at mHUB, what we provide our teams is a place-based asset. We have a 63,000 square foot lab right in the heart of Chicago. We're at like Chicago and Halstead. Used to be a former Motorola cell phone prototyping and testing lab. And in here, there's access to capital intensive equipment. So, you know, $50,000 CNC machines that would be cost prohibitive for a new startup to invest in, to the latest and greatest 3D printing and inspection technologies, which are all necessary to continue going from that prototype to that market validation to that scaling point for a startup. We focus on building out a lot of networks. I mean, power of bringing people together and the networking effects, you know, we feel very strongly in it. And ones that we focus a lot on are ones around educators, mentors, investors, supplier networks. And, you know, as our teams grow and the complexity of the businesses grow, the importance of these networks are becoming ever more apparent, but then they're turning into real economic activity. Like I said, with the $30 million that we were able to take our manufacturing supplier network that we developed, connect an entrepreneur with one of those manufacturers, and support both an existing company as well as a startup build and grow their business. And we do all sorts of innovation related work. You know, with today, there's 270 active companies in mHUB. And with that, there's about 600 engineers that are entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship is a struggle. Most times you're going, you know, you're pre-revenue, you're not generating income. And we provide an opportunity for supplemental income for these teams. And the way we do that is we connect with companies like Marmon, Nestle, Tesla, to do project-based R&D work where we contract the entrepreneurs out to industry for that short-term R&D. And we've grown that service to the point where we're able to infuse about $100,000 every month into the community here, which is extending runways, allowing people to hire ahead and invest in their companies and their inventory. And then, of course, lots of marketing efforts, although a little bit different today in the COVID world, but you know, in a normal world, which we're hoping that comes soon enough, you know, there would be 200 plus events going on in our building, and we would attract over 85,000 visitors every year. And those are everything from product launches to meetup groups, to demo days, pitch competitions, to supplier matchups, meetups. And, you know, starting to prep for fall to get that activity going again, but, you know, look forward to getting the people back together. You know, mHUB was built and initiated by World Business Chicago, but it was funded and launched by industry. You know, we had the support of groups like Chamberlain, Molex, Underwriters Laboratory, Bank of America, Wintrust, the Marmon Group that, you know, saw the value in creating this place-based asset. As we've continued to grow, we've you know, built really strong relationships with the Department of Energy. And just this past year, we're recognized as one of the 20 leading organizations that are driving commercialization in energy tech related startups. And we were the only one that was non-university aligned, so completely independent 501c3 nonprofit that is helping accelerate this growth. And then, you know, we have had tremendous support by the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. And really, public support-wise, they've been the group that has helped us take us from idea to building out our venture fund, to building out our product engineering services, and then soon looking at how we expand into really focus on economic recovery and activating you know, entrepreneurship, but small, medium-sized businesses that were so affected by this global pandemic. Types of companies, when you talk about manufacturing, you'll hear a lot with industry, like the only thing that aren't manufactured in any room that we're in is the air and our cells. Everything is a manufactured good. And the types of companies that we're supporting, you wouldn't be surprised. It's a lot around the R&D that's going on in the area. From agriculture companies like Amber that developed a sensor at the University of Illinois that had the ability to measure air and moisture inside a grain silo and provide advanced analytics to farmers so that they can control the moisture, protect their grain as they're storing it before they go to market, to a communication technology company like Mesh that is able to create internet in areas where there isn't infrastructure for internet. So, thinking, in renewable fields to parks. I mean, they've had a good effort during the pandemic to activate and turning on internet throughout the city of Chicago. To Guardhat, which a company that was headquartered in Detroit, came to mHUB for a pitch competition and saw this as the absolute best place to continue building their team. They're in the industrial wearable space. They make a hard hat that has all sorts of vitals, monitoring, access control technologies, and led a $20 million Series A round led by Dan Gilbert's fund, as well as Cat Ventures. And today they have opened up a 25,000 square foot facility in Schaumburg and have employed over 25 new employees in the area. The slide that you see here, these are all teams that have contributed to that $700 million raise that has happened over the last few years. And the activity is continuing to grow. I look last year, we had one of our largest exits to date was a 3D printing bureau company that came from the Netherlands, moved to Chicago. They've been working with mHUB for the last 18 months to build out their connection to industry, build up their operation. And in December, they exited for $320 million to Proto Labs. And very quick path to growing a business, connecting with customers, and creating that wealth generating opportunity. This is just more high level about the types of teams, the talent that's here, the distribution. The dates are a little bit dated. The data is a little bit dated as we're just finishing out our 2020 survey. And then this last slide. So, a new part of what we've been really focused on in the last year was solving this access to capital, and specifically risk capital. This is in the hard tech space, a huge opportunity for Chicago, huge opportunity for the US that no area has figured out. And we throw up this slide here. So, mHUB, in partnership with, former Deputy Mayor Steve Koch, head of Chicago Next, Mark Tebby, and perennial entrepreneur Israel Donajay, looked at how we could, build a fund that would provide access to capital to teams that, were languishing. They didn't have access to friends and family around. They weren't able to get that traction to build and launch their product-based business. And ultimately decided to raise a $15 million fund that we would deploy in 60 companies over a 3.5-year period, where small cash investment, but largely what we were bringing was the strategic value of our partnership, our organization, and deploying it in a very intense 6-month-long program. Yesterday, we just finalized selection of our teams. We opened applications in Q4 of 2021 or 2020 to identify 10 potential industrial IoT teams that we would support and invest in. And we got 489 applications from all over the world of people that saw the value of Chicago, saw the value of this unique investment fund, as well as the network and resources that mHUB's built. And believed that Chicago was the place to grow and scale their business. And you can see here, on this slide, we've whittled the teams down, and from that, we're attracting 4 teams from the Bay, 2 local teams, 1 team from New York, 1 team from Michigan, 1 team from the UK, and 1 team from Russia. And you can see the universities that are represented, the types of talent, and the diversity of the founders, which, if you know anything about venture funding, the diversity statistics are absolutely horrific when you look at the distribution of investment between underrepresented minorities and women founders. So we're thrilled about the outcome and the amazing talent and amazing teams that we've been able to attract. But I just leave that as a proof point that we have something special here with our talent, with our strategic location, with the 16,000 manufacturers that we have here, the support and civic network that were created. And as we really focus and build out this access to capital piece, we can attract teams from all over the world to grow and build and re-energize this industry as we move forward into the 21st century. More about where the teams are coming from. And, with that, I would love to get the conversation started with you, Dr. McKenney, and get to some of the questions.
Great, thank you. I'm just gonna switch my view back so that I can see everyone now. So before I kick off with my first question, I am just going to remind all of our attendees, if you have a question for Haven, please put your question in the Q&A and I will moderate from there. So Haven, my background is in public health. I'm over at Sterling Bay now, working in the life sciences. So in both of those arenas, we've just really been paying attention to COVID-19 and the impacts that COVID have had not just on public health, but also on the life sciences industry. So I'm just wondering, what challenges have you seen in the manufacturing sector as a result of COVID? And do you see any improvements? Do you see, status quo? What are you seeing? What have you seen over the course of the pandemic? And what do you think the outlook is moving forward?
I mean, with manufacturing specifically, I would say it's one of the bright spots of the economy. It's growing at a rate that it hasn't grown in decades. And I think that really speaks to the adaptability of the industry in the early stages. I remember, 2 specific efforts that we were involved in back in March of 2020 in April. One was Governor Pritzker's Essential Equipment Task Force, which was led by iBio and the Illinois Manufacturing Association, which, we were tasked with spinning up manufacturing capacity throughout the state to really solve this PPE gap need. And, when we put out a call to manufacturers, there were 700 of them that had no production in PPE that raised their hand and said, we're willing to make gowns, we're willing to make face masks, face shields, isopropanol, processed plastics. And it was amazing seeing those groups come together, help support sort of the pivot of production lines and solve a very short-term gap in our supply chain. Things have normalized a bit since, but in the early days, when we were trying to spin up new production, the industry stood up and took that call. On the other side of it, on sort of the product innovation side, the one thing that I would say that this pandemic has exposed, I would say, engineers and manufacturers to was old legacy equipment that can be re-engineered and have a quicker path to approval. And specifically, I look at like ventilator technology. When we were in the essential equipment group, you were looking at ventilators selling anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 a unit, right? And we needed to come up with a low-cost opportunity to be able to manufacture with the sort of constrained supply chain that was out there. We challenged our members in partnerships with groups like Accenture, Google, Johnson Controls, Northwestern, and UIC Health Systems to come up with a very low-cost ventilator technology that could be manufactured with all non-custom parts for less than $1,000. And with that, 2 project teams, skunk working for 6 weeks, developed two competing technologies. One of them was picked up by DARPA and the Air Force to continue scale up and fast track approval. But we hit that mark of being able to manufacture a $30,000 product, re-engineer it down with different sort of approach and thinking about how it is designed to make it a sub $1,000 product. And then we open sourced it so anybody in the world could be able to leverage that. This is going to unlock a whole new wave, I think, of medical device and med tech related innovation that's going to go on. So I'm very excited about that. And then the industry itself, it's strong. I mean, we're working through some new supply chain issues, which is a global issue, I think, with some constraints as demand is quickly ramped up. There's some supply chain issues in plastics and aluminum and steel and chip manufacturing, but all indications is those will normalize by Q3 of this year, and that the full allotment that our local industry is looking at should be able to be produced.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, certainly the outlook sounds to me like it's going to be great. I think I might have to pay you a visit over at mHUB and, let's figure out how we can develop some partnerships. So
Absolutely.
our first question has come in. So I'll go to this question before I ask my next one. And that question is, can you share your thoughts about how the capital will flow? You indicated that your 6 cohorts of 10 companies will each need a lot of capital. So can we attract VC and private equity from some of the geographies where your first cohorts come from? How will you facilitate those relationships being developed?
Well, first, the fund itself, $15 million is a smaller fund, first time fund, but significant in this hard tech space. And, one of our goals was not only to invest in 60 companies, but to build a limited partner base that is invested, engaged, and strategically aligned with this type of investors. And to date, we have 52 limited partners. And some amazing leaders like, Jim Perry from Madison Dearborn, one of the co-founders there, to, Sam Zell is one of our anchor investors, to a whole bunch of manufacturers and entrepreneurs that have been successful, and professors from both Northwestern and University of Chicago. So we're building out a strategic base that one is this one, but we see them as strategic angel investors that will continue following on. We're going to need to figure out the growth capital space. And again, where I started, no one has in this world. When we rewind the clock back, it makes sense that if you're in the sort of soft tech space, that there is a venture capital system that has been recycling capital and continuing to grow that capital. But it wasn't until 2007 that the iPhone was released. And we see that as sort of the point in which the ability to create hardware, the ability to lower cost of all the components, the software, the battery storage, the ability to communicate, the cloud computing, all of these sort of technologies have been evolving very quickly, which has created this new wave of innovation. So no one's figured out this capital. We're taking a step forward into it. And we're hoping to build other successive funds. But what I would say is proven, we can attract teams all over the world because of all of those unique assets we have. And now we're layering capital on top of it. Sky's the limit for what I think Chicago can accomplish if we can continue to solve this strategic growth capital. This is an area where we are differentiated. This is an area where we can put a stake in the ground and really have claim to building out this type of innovation economy.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that question was from our CCAC chairman, Greg Hummel. But our next question comes from one of our CCAC executive board members, and that is Bob Chodos. And Bob says, he has a couple of comments first. He says, really exciting presentation and initiative. He thinks that there are too many negative comments in the world about our great region, but the mHUB story is strong. So his question is, how can we in the business community best help you, Haven, and your partners to accelerate your programs and the work that's going on at mHUB?
Yeah, the ways are are many. I think with this portfolio specifically that we'll build over the next 3 years, the types of teams that we're investing in, first set of 10 are in the industrial IoT advanced manufacturing space. The next set of 10 will open applications in May are in the med tech space. The third one we're looking at is in energy tech, and the fourth one in autonomous vehicles and smart mobility. So I just frame that up because with these teams that we attract here, we're going to need to connect them with potential manufacturers, potential customers, pilot opportunities, field trials, to continue progressing these teams along their tech journey as well as their business development journey. Partners, we would love for local industry to get more engaged, I think, in entrepreneurship in general. I know when I talk with a lot of our peers, this is one thing that, it's something we're trying to crack. I think in general, there's a sense that, with mHUB being a nonprofit, we're engaging with them from a corporate social responsibility standpoint. Same thing with groups like 1871 and Matter. But to a company located in Phoenix or California, we're the answer to their innovation needs. We have the talent, we have the products, and just trying to, change the mentality, I think, of local Fortune 500 companies is a huge opportunity. And we're seeing it happen with merging efforts like P33. I mean, that's part of what they're trying to drive is this connection between our universities, our entrepreneurs, and our industry together. And a lot of exciting things are starting to come from that. Investor wise, we're definitely looking for additional investors for this first fund, and would love to talk with others that would want to develop a growth fund attached to this. And then when I take it down to the incubator itself and the other 270 companies, right now we have a curriculum of about 80 courses. They're teaching everything from like how to build your financial model, to building your brand, to protecting your intellectual property, etc. All of those courses are taught by the civic and the business community. We identify a need and we go out to the community to help develop those workshops. And then the same thing on the mentorship program. So those are two areas that we are always looking for people willing to give back and support this future growth in the region. And then with the teams, they're always looking for those pilot and field opportunities. So numerous ways to engage, and would love to field any call to talk through any of those.
Haven, I tell you not to be surprised if Bob gives you a call. He doesn't speak up unless he means it. So don't be surprised if you hear from him. I will tell you, our executive board members are present and accounted for today. Our next question comes from another member of the executive board, and that is Kimberly Dowdell. And her question is, how are you thinking about collaboration with the larger Midwestern region? Are there any conversations with similar entities in Detroit, for example?
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations. I think, when we launched back in 2017 in this space, we were sort of a trailblazer, and we've supported groups from Kansas City to Montana to Milwaukee to Houston think through how they build and launch an mHUB itself. And we've had conversations with, some elected representatives about opening mHUBs in other locations. mHUB itself was launched very focused on growing Illinois and Chicago manufacturing. But the playbook that's created in the resource that we've been able to aggregate can for sure be replicated. One tangible way that we are working specifically with a group in Detroit, since that was the question. mHUB was, as I said, by the Department of Energy, identified as one of those 20 leading incubators driving commercialization in the energy tech space. And we partnered with a group called Centropolis. They're an accelerator out of Lawrence Technical University that focuses on energy tech companies. as well as Innovation Crossroads at the University of Tennessee. And then in partnership with Clean Energy Trust and Argonne National Labs and Oak Ridge National Labs, all focused on taking all this great research that's going on, spinning it into any one of our 3 centers to accelerate their growth and development. This is like the first time we've tangibly collaborated with a Detroit-based company, but a good example of the opportunities that are out there. And yeah, I think they're abound right now.
That's great. Well, you talked a lot about partnerships. You talked a lot about, the formula for mHUB and the fact that it's replicable. One of the areas of focus, I'm sure, goes back to your World Business Chicago days, but has really been in the forefront from the last several years, is attracting new talent here to Chicago, but also maintaining all of the rich talent that we have here through our universities, and then the increasing focus on manufacturing, life sciences, and healthcare and tech. So speaking of partners, what about, the other incubators here in Chicago? How often are you partnering with Stephen, for example, over at Matter, and Betsy over at 1871? Is there any work that the 3 of you are doing together that you might be able to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, both with Betsy at 1871, Stephen at Matter, and I would say Chandra Brown at MXD. I mean, we're in constant conversation, collaboration. I think Betsy and Stephen and I have at least one call every week. And where we've been focused a lot and was on the health and humanitarian crisis related to COVID. We were blessed enough to get some funds from the Searle family, from the Walder Foundation and Bank of America, to pull together health and public health officials and really understand what were those problem statements in which new tech could adapt and address, whether it was rapid testing to contact tracing to sanitizing spaces. And I think we held probably, I don't even know, spoke with maybe 100 different stakeholders in this space, and then put out a call to our collective entrepreneurship communities, which represents about 1,000 businesses. And we had 300 applications to apply to really either pivot their company or address one of these 9 problem statement areas. We ended up selecting 22 of them, and some good stars in there, from Repley, who's on a rocket ship right now, and their circular economy that they built out, to Rapid Rona, which is helping create a distributed testing network for testing whether you have antibodies and active infection. And that work continues to grow. I mean, now as we're getting past like the initial health and humanitarian crisis, I would say we're starting to focus more on economic recovery and looking at how we can take the resources that we've been able to build over the years and get them into more communities, more neighborhoods, more small businesses to help rapidly recover the area. And there's some things that will be coming down the pipeline very soon on that, but it's all about how we take what we built, the know-how, and spread it out and connect. What our goal is about 1,000 new entities over the next 2 years to really jumpstart this recovery.
Yeah.
And that's from training to supporting small businesses and people who want to launch new businesses.
Those are really great examples of just how deeply the mHUB community is impacting the city in really great, innovative, and impactful ways. So thank you for sharing that. Our next question comes from Kevin Burns, and Kevin says, the price of real estate for industrial uses near O'Hare or by the significant intermodal nodes in and around Chicago is well below pricing for similar sites in New York City or LA, for example. Has this factor been cited by users coming to the Chicago area?
Yeah, I know, our price of living, our cost of living is definitely something that's very attractive. Price of real estate, there's huge opportunities throughout the the 7-county area. And yeah, I mean, price is part of it, but I think in attracting companies, they're looking at their access to talent, both at production as well as, engineering level, their ability to move their products to their customers, and then have access to a support and supply chain around them so that they can consistently and reliably develop their products. And I think we hit on all those. There is honestly, of course, regulatory barriers that when you look over cross boundaries that create some competitiveness between Illinois and some of our regional areas. But I think there are plenty that are looking at the uniqueness in what we create or what we have as a region. I know at mHUB, we look at manufacturing, right? And it's Apple is a manufacturer, but they manufacture nothing but intellectual property. They contract out anything that is being created. We have a real opportunity to grow the Apple type of companies, the Apple type of manufacturers here with this new product innovation, but then really leverage up and connect it with our existing 16,000 contract and local manufacturers to scale up and grow that. As we are able to attract businesses like Foxconn, like that has huge spillover effects. When a Foxconn opens up, there are suppliers that are built all around a Foxconn. When a Ford Motor company is on the south side of Chicago, which is our largest manufacturer in Chicago, there are hundreds of suppliers and thousands of jobs that locate right around there. And that's what we need to create, these central locations, these central products that are going to attract those suppliers and those new manufacturers and support the growth from the existing industry.
Fantastic. So Chicago and the Midwest have been longtime leaders in transportation, but infrastructure is going to be a key investment opportunity. Chicago's design and construction firms are some of the best in the country. So could you envision a cohort at mHUB dedicated to infrastructure?
Potentially. I mean, the way we form up a partnership is, we have industry that is bought into a cohort. So when I look at the industrial IoT cohort, we're working with a local manufacturer named Panduit and one of the largest parts component suppliers in the world named Avnet. And for them, they defined up market opportunities for us. We collectively marketed to a global audience, and then we collectively select the teams, and we'll work together to develop those teams. And both Panduit and Avnet are looking to deploy and provide those pilot opportunities. As we move into the MedTech cohort, we've partnered with Baxter, and soon we'll have a new local hospital system that is verbally committed, but we're working through the paperwork on. That is also joining. Again, they're providing those market opportunities. They're looking at these teams from both a pipeline, but then potential M&A activity to potentially being customers for an area of their business that they see as a true market or problem-based need. And we're starting to look at energy tech. We're planning to launch that one in late December 2021 in the autonomous vehicles. Infrastructure, smart buildings, smart cities, definitely something on our roadmap. We would want the 2 to 4 industry partners that are supporting some of the costs that are associated with the program, providing those pilot opportunities, but then also putting some follow-on investment on the table. All those entities that I talked about are putting follow-on investment on the table for the team. So mHUB and our partners are making the first investment. They're following on with additional investment, the pilots, the customer. So yes, fully open, but we would really need to find those industry partners that would want to be those champions for this vertical.
Well, how amazing would it be if some of our CCAC members stepped up to be those champions and those partners in that effort? Any plans to grow mHUB? And if so, what does growth look like?
It's a good question. We, as I said earlier, we had our 4-year anniversary last week, and we're in a biennial planning year. So we're still sort of living on our first 5-year vision document, and now we're setting the course for the next 5 years. And with the success we've had, it's created some unique opportunities, but we want to make sure that we remain true to our mission and what we're here focused on. We do believe that there's a real opportunity for Chicago and mHUB to participate in sort of this emerging hard tech physical product growth opportunities, which are, as again, hundreds of billions to trillions of dollar market opportunities. The venture fund, I would imagine this first $15 million will be the first in a series of funds that we launched to continue to grow and attract very high quality, investable, high potential teams to the region. And then the other part with our product engineering services, this is an opportunity for industry to connect with those emerging, those innovative thinkers that are building their own product but need supplemental income to grow. So it's a match made in heaven. I mean, for a startup, they can work for a corporate entity for a month and get enough runway for the next 3 to 4 months, so that then they can focus on their business. And we're seeing that really help scale up some high potential teams. And then it is definitely something that we're looking at, potentially satellite offices in Chicago or other locations, but we would want to replicate what we did here in Chicago, where there was a real strong community, a strong industry buy-in, and good support from our civic community in order to build it out, and not just sort of drop an mHUB in Milwaukee or Detroit. It's how do we pull partners together, lower costs and barriers, create sort of scale in which we can really service and support a lot of entities.
Fantastic. Haven, this has been such a great conversation. I learned so much more about mHUB today that I didn't know prior to today. So I really appreciate you spending the time with us. So I'm going to wrap us up with one final question. And that is, in your opinion, what's next for mHUB? Is there anything new and exciting on the horizon? What do you think you'll do next with this fantastic manufacturing incubator and space for all of the great work that's happening there?
Going back again to the Accelerator program, we're excited for this first 10 teams to arrive here in Chicago, May 17th. They'll be here for 6 months long, but hopefully we're helping them develop roots so that they never live. They grow, they create wealth, they create jobs here. And our plan is to support and bring 10 new companies every 6 months, while also the local companies, the teams that are spinning out of universities that need access to talent and resources and mentors and manufacturers to be that support network for them. There's a lot of growth opportunity, and we're seeing it with our teams right now, and look forward to engaging with some of the partners here on the phone today, as well as the local industry. I mean, there's talent here. There's amazing products. There's an incredible manufacturing supply chain to help spin up that. And we look forward to working with individuals that want to really activate and participate in this activity.
That's great. Well, once again, Haven, on behalf of the CCAC Executive Board and our full CCAC membership, thank you again so much for presenting at our March monthly meeting. We greatly appreciate it. And with that, I am going to ask our CCA support lead, Clint Sabin, to make an announcement to our membership about the return of CCAC member networking. So Clint, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. McKinney, and thank you, Haven. So some feedback that we've received is that CCAC members miss the opportunity to connect with each other each month to talk about what projects you're working on and socialize. So I'm excited to announce that for the April meeting next month, we're going to try an online version of networking using Zoom's breakout feature. The networking session will start at 11:30 a.m. and members will be randomly put into rooms with other CCA members to catch up with each other. And every 10 minutes, those rooms will reshuffle. And so you'll get to connect with other people. The guest speaker portion will start promptly at noon. Please also note that future meeting notices will come with a calendar meeting invitation that you can drop into your calendar effortlessly. And those will come from our project coordinator, Nira, whose email address is nhari@ccac.org. I'll put that email address in the chat so you can adjust your spam filters appropriately. So once again, thank you, Dr. McKinney. Thank you, Haven. And any last questions or comments, Greg?
Greg says we're all good. I think it looks like we might be giving our members 10 minutes back in their schedules today.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month. Don't forget, half hour early.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.